Hello all and welcome to ManageEngine Mobile Device Manager Plus training. My name is Naveen and I would be your trainer for the day. So let's take a look at our training schedule. Today, we will discuss on app management and device security. On next week's training, we will look into device enrollment and device provisioning. Here is our training agenda. First, we will have a brief overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. Mobile devices predominantly use applications. Hence, application management is key. Today, we will discuss on end-to-end app management and how MDM can lock a device to run just specific applications. Applications that we manage will have sensitive corporate data, and this data has to be secured. MDM provides a wide list of security features ranging from device tracking to securing data on lost or misplaced devices. And hailing from an MDM tech support background, I have handpicked a few scenarios in reference to the above mentioned topics, along with some questions that were asked during the previous training sessions. Now let's get started with our first topic for the day, which is the overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. MDM supports well-known operating systems like Android OS, Apple iOS, Chrome OS, as well as Windows devices. So smartphones, tablets, and even your Windows 10 laptops can be managed by the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So how is the MDM available? First, the MDM is available as a standalone solution that is supported both on your on-premise as well as the cloud platform, and it's also available as an add-on along with our flagship product known as Desktop Central, which is used to manage legacy computers, thereby completing a unified endpoint management solution. We have also brought in an MSP edition of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product for multi-tenant systems. MDM, again, has a lot of integrations available. So these integrations can be with one of our own products like Service Desk Plus, Zoho Creator, or Zoho CRM, or with third-party solutions like Spiceworks. We have also introduced your common API system, which allows the MDM solution to be integrated with any third-party solution that you would like. So Spiceworks and Service Desk Plus that you see over here are help desk options. Creator and CRM are more cloud-based solutions, which helps in creating applications and also your managing your customer relationship management as well. So you are integrating various products, I would call, from various sectors with the MDM solution. And now, for the Mobile Device Manager Plus architecture. MDM has adopted a universal architecture which comprises of three main components: mobile devices that are owned by you, MDM service that is provided by us, and the notification services that are maintained by the device vendors, namely Apple push notification services for iOS, Google's Fire-based cloud messaging, and Windows notification services. And for the communication, the MDM server leverages on the notification services to wake up your mobile devices, which in turn gets in touch with your server directly, thereby completing your communication cycle. As mobile devices are always on the go, the MDM service has to be exposed to the internet so as to maintain constant device contact. As a security measure, we have provided a secure gateway add-on which forwards the mobile device request to the server itself, thereby securing your MDM server from external threats. And you can also integrate your MDM server with Active Directory services for device authentication and assignment purposes. Now for the ports used by MDM. So the main port that we would be focused on when it comes to an on-premise solution is the 9383 port, as the 9383 port serves as the communication from your mobile devices to your MDM service. While if you're on the cloud-based solution, everything happens over HTTP request, which would be port 443. So this completes the architecture, but how are the devices managed? Well, for your Android, we would add our MDM application in order to manage the mobile devices, while for iOS and Windows, we take advantage of the native client to manage your mobile devices. So let's take a quick look at the product itself. So this is the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. You have tabs ranging from Home tab to Support. Home is just a predefined tab with basic collection of details like the device type, platform summary, and audit log feed as well to see what has happened over a course of time. You have your device management tab, which is kind of like your powerhouse of the MDM, I would say, where you can push out configurations to your devices, applications, take remote, push out documents, everything that we would be seeing today in this free training. We also have an inventory tab to keep stock of all your devices and also keep track of the devices as well through location data tracking. And the main part, which is enrollment, wherein you enroll a device into the MDM solution so that you can manage that device as a part of your company. And there are multiple enrollment options, and this sector itself would be taken care in next week's training. We then have a reports tab to collect a detailed report of whatever the mobile device has to offer, right from predefined to custom reports, and even using API calls, as I mentioned previously, you can collect data from the mobile devices as well. We then have the admin tab, wherein you go through all the basic setup. In case you're using an on-premise, you'd have to go through your network level setup. In case you're the cloud, you can go through your user administration setup. And at last, we have the support tab, where you have all of your blogs, what's new under MDM, and even if you'd like to request for any features. So before I get into the main part of the training, we do have a team available on the chat. So if you have any questions regarding the topics that we are going to discuss today in the training, you can always raise it out to them. So they would be handling your questions. Now, it's time to dive into app management. MDM app management deals with installing, removing, and managing the updates for your installed applications. So this is how it works. Here on the MDM server, you would have to build something called as the app repository. And this app repository can hold applications from the store, or you can upload your own enterprise applications as well. So when you distribute this app, a particular app to your device, we would either leverage it from the store or leverage it from the MDM server to install the application in your device. So consider I am the administrator for my company, and I would have to distribute certain applications to my devices. So this scenario is where one of my sales team representatives who has an iOS device comes up to me and says that he requires a particular application in his device. So that being a personal device, I would have to first add the application in my app repository. So how do I go about doing that? So in the MDM service over here, we will go to Device Management tab. So Device Management tab, as I mentioned, is the powerhouse of the MDM, and this is where you would find your app repository. So app repository, as I mentioned, is a collection of your applications. And over here, you have a button called as Add App. So when you click on Add App, since he's using an iOS device, I would have to add an Apple Store application. So I'd have to type in the application name, which is Zoho CRM, for example. And immediately MDM would contact your Apple Store and collect all of the necessary applications. So if I click on this app over here, I would get the bundle identifier and the Apple App Store ID immediately printed out over there. But since I am from a different region and I know that the app developer has made some changes for that region, I can change it right from United States to any region I'm from. So this would immediately make any small changes that the app developer might have done for that particular region alone. And apart from that, I can also go through other policies like upon removing the MDM profile, I can also remove the application so that the data would be deleted and thus thereby securing the data. And you can also restrict the backup of the app data to iTunes or iCloud. So you don't want your corporate data to be synced into a third-party service. You can restrict the backup as well. And the last option that we provide is something called as configurations. So if your app developer is going to allow you to make some changes to the application itself, those changes can be predefined in this app configuration tab over here, wherein you can drop a particular file, your app would be configured, and once you hit on save, along with that configuration, we would save the application under your app repository. And from here, you can distribute it to any group or device that you have enrolled. So when I go down to groups and devices, I have your groups and devices pane over here. So for example, if I'm going to take a particular group, which is the sales team or the HR team, for example, I can choose actions, distribute app. I can search for any application that I would like. So if I'm going for the CRM application, here you have two types: installation via manual installation from the app catalog or silent installation. So silent installation is something that I would be discussing down the line, but for now, manual installation from the app catalog would do, since it's a BYOD device. So if I hit on select, that application would be distributed to the particular group and the devices under that group. So let's see what happens on the device end. So on the device end, the user would have to open the MDM application, hit on app catalog, Zoho Creator or Zoho CRM, any application that you have distributed would be present over there. They click on install. We would immediately ask for your iTunes account details. So once the account details are provided, the app would be installed in the device itself. So this is how the manual installation works. So every device must be provisioned to a particular iTunes account, or a personal iTunes account, as I would call it. And user intervention is really necessary in order to complete your app installation. It's kind of like a regular app installation in your devices. But what if your end users are not technical, as in they do not have a personal iTunes account or a personal Gmail account in the devices? And if it's for one device, it's fine. But what if you would have to distribute the same app to thousands of devices that are out there? So in that case, MDM has the right feature rolled up its sleeve. So that would be your automate app installation processes. So for each device vendor, be it your iOS or Android, there is a particular solution, which is your Apple Business Manager for your iOS devices and the Google Play for Work solution for your Android devices. So what are the benefits of configuring the ABM or the Play for Work? First, you can build your own app repository containing just IT approved applications, which can be distributed to your devices. And the best of all is that you can prevent your users from installing any application that they like from the store. So that would be, a great part wherein only your IT approved applications would be present in the devices. So let's take a quick look at Apple Business Manager. So Apple Business Manager would help you to approve applications that are required only for your organization. You can also manage the licenses that come with the application, whether they can be associated to a device or revoked from a device. And the best part, again, you can control the app updates, whether you'd like to update it to a particular version or whether you'd like to withhold it from getting updated at all. But before that, we'd have to meet certain prerequisites in order to obtain the ABM service itself. So first of all, you'd have to create an account with the Apple Business Manager services, which is free of cost. And from most of the countries, it is available and you can sign up for that. And next, your devices must be supervised. So supervision is a technical term, which means that MDM or the management services would have complete control of the devices. So it's an enrollment characteristic, I would say, and that would be dealt with in next week's session. So this is how your Apple Business Manager solution works. You integrate your ABM service with the MDM. You purchase or approve any paid or free applications from your ABM portal. and then you would distribute the app to your devices. The apps then get silently installed in the devices. So at no point would your users be forced to add any iTunes account in the device itself. So let's take a quick look at how the ABM is present under your management solution. So I'll go back to App Repository now. Here we have Apple App Management tab, and I guess someone has been playing around with the system. So this is a good example, I would say. If you are having an ABM service, and if you're going to download an S token, don't use it in multiple MDM solutions. Apple has strictly given that to only be made use to in only one solution rather than 2 or 3. So if I click on this button and hit on continue, and if someone else is using the same token elsewhere, it would revoke all the licenses and apps from their service. But yeah, let's go ahead with it. So this is how we would integrate your server token, but this is the page after integration. But before that, I have another service over here wherein I still haven't uploaded any server tokens yet. So over here under App Repository, under the same Apple Distribution tab, I have Configure Apps for Business. So when I choose this particular option, I am given the option to upload a server token. So if I choose and if I upload the server token, that token would be uploaded over here. So this is a particular token that is obtained from your ABM services. So let me just take you back to show you where you can obtain this token. So this is your Apple Business Manager service. You have the settings right at the bottom. So if you click on settings, you go to apps and books, and for your particular location, mind that you can have multiple locations under Apple Business Manager if you have a large company. So for that particular location or for that particular office, you can download a server token. So if you hit on download, you would obtain the token that I have just uploaded over there. So once that is done, you would have to go for the app installation type without Apple ID to make sure that we or iOS devices do not ask for an Apple ID during the installation process. And you can also mention an email address for the S token expiry, as it has to be renewed once every year. So if you click on save right now, this would be updated and we would have a completed page like this. So once this is done, all you have to do is approve or purchase any applications from your Apple Business Manager portal. So I move back to my Apple Business Manager portal over here. I search for the same application, Zoho CRM. Now that I have to distribute it to 200 or 300 of my sales representatives, I'll go to Zoho CRM. I choose that particular application. I would see whether it's device assignable over here. And I would also mention the quantity of licenses that I would have to purchase. So I can just mention the quantity of 200 or 300. If it's a free application, the price will always stay at 0. And you can also assign it to a location as to which office or which token this particular license has to be assigned to. So once that is done, all you'd have to do is come back to the MDM service over here and hit on sync VPP applications. So once you sync the VPP apps, we would start collecting the details from the VPP or from the ABM services, and we would post the details over here. So you have all of your applications that were synced from the VPP services over here. And from here, you can distribute it to any devices that you'd like. So you go to groups and devices. Again, I choose the same HR team. I go to distribute applications. I can filter out the applications over here. I go for free. I go to, say, HR business, silent installation. Now that we have approved the applications from your Apple Business Manager portal, I would go for the silent installation option and then hit on select. So this would distribute the application silently to my devices. So this is how it works. So on the device, no pop-ups, no dialog box. Automatically, the app that you have distributed would be installed in your devices. So it's always a recommendation from our end as well as from Apple's end to ensure that the device is connected to a Wi-Fi solution when you are going to distribute large applications which are above 150 MB. So we have been discussing in detail as to how you can distribute an application as a personal device or as you could say a corporate device in order to silently install your application. But how do we go about controlling your app updates? And why should we control them in the first place? Well, if your app is outdated or if it requires a patch, then it could mean that the application that you have right now has some serious security issues. Maybe it's for preventing, or maybe the updated version can sometimes have a bug which can affect your productivity. And also at the same time, if you're going to run an old application, it might tend to be slow at times. So in order to control your app updates, either you're updating or preventing the updates, you can do it if the applications are purchased via ABM and if the applications are device assignable. So app updates would help you to restrict any app updates by the end user itself on the devices, and you can also force the critical app updates on the devices without any user intervention. So over here, I go down to say app repository. You would see a banner on top which says app updates available for distribution. I click on that number. I would get the application. I would choose the application over here, and I have the update all button. So when I click on the update all button, again, I would get two options. Though it's synced from your ABM services, you can still manually add it to the app catalog and the user can update it at any point of time. Or if it's a critical update, you can force install the update in your devices. So by clicking on update app, the update would be distributed to your devices itself. So now for Google Play for Work. We have discussed on how Apple works. So Google has their same program, same configurations to distribute their applications, Play Store applications to Android-based devices. So the prerequisites for the Play for Work solution is first you'd have to create an account with Google Play for Work. It can be a regular account, a regular@gmail.com, or it can be a G Suite account with your company domain name. And the devices must be running 5.0 or above. So in order for the Play for Work solution to work, the devices must be running 5.0 and above. So this flow that you see over here right now is pretty similar to your Apple Business Manager solution. You integrate the Play for Work with the MDM server. You purchase or approve your paid or free applications from the Play for Work service. You distribute the apps to your devices, and without any user intervention, the apps would get silently installed in your devices. So coming back to your management portal over here, I go for Android for Work, and this is where you set up your Play for Work service with the MDM. So if I go back to another service where I haven't set up any Android for Work solution, over here under Android for Work, I have two options: register using G Suite and register without G Suite. The without G Suite option is for regular users who have just an @gmail.com account. But if your company specifically owns a G Suite account or a domain account under Google, you can go for the register using G Suite option. So if I click on register without G Suite, I'd be taken to this particular page over here. So I would have to sign in with my particular account. So once it's signed in, I provide my organization name. It's always better to read and agree to your Managed Google Play agreement. You can confirm and you can complete the registration. So once the registration has been complete, you can go back to the MDM page over here and you would find a page similar to this. So once the Play for Work or the Android for Work solution has been configured, all you have to do now is to approve applications or purchase applications from the necessary store. So I would go back to your Play for Work store over here. I would search for the particular application. Again, it's going to be the same CRM application, but this time I am distributing it to a bunch of Android devices. So I search for the CRM application. I find the CRM application from the lot. I hit on approve, and immediately I would get a pop-up asking if I can approve all these details. So once I hit on approve, the application would be added to my solution over here. So I can then again filter your application out. So you would find the applications over here, and you can choose any application that you'd like and distribute to your devices. Say, for example, if I'm going for the Gmail app over here, I have your configurations. As I mentioned, that you can pre-configure for your devices and then push it out to your devices as well. So distributing of the application would pretty much be the same throughout the solution. Again, I choose my HR team, and this is a fun fact. A group which is created can hold both your iOS devices and Android devices, so you can distribute any number of applications or even associate any profiles or configurations, I may call it, to your group itself. So again, I'm going to distribute an app over here. This time I'm filtering it out for Android. So I go for free applications. I choose one particular app. I hit on silent installation, hit on select, and this particular application would be distributed to your groups. So once it's distributed, this is how it would look like in your devices. First, a work account would be added by the Google Play services in your device. Once that is done, automatically your Play Store application that you have approved will start downloading in your device. And once that has been downloaded, it would either be added to the entire device if it's a corporate owned device, or it would be added to a small container that you see over here. And there is one other option that I didn't discuss, is you can also have control on the permissions that the app can perform. So if you're going to restrict, say, contacts and locations, then the app would not be able to access the contacts or the location of the device itself. And regarding the small containerized part that you see over here, we would discuss in detail about it in the coming few minutes. So this is how we would distribute an application silently to the devices from the Play Store. So what if you have in-house application? In-house applications are nothing but enterprise apps. So would you require an ABM account or a Play for Work account in this case? Well, my answer would be no. For that, you can upload the enterprise application silently to the MDM solution and then distribute them out as well. But for the installation to happen silently, you'd have to pass through some prerequisites, wherein for iOS devices, the devices must be supervised, or you, as a management solution, you need to have complete control of the devices. And for Android, the devices must either be Samsung devices or devices that are provisioned as device owner. So device owner is again a technical term, which is equivalent to your supervised state, which means that as an MDM solution, we would have complete control of the device, which would be dealt with in next week's session. So in the MDM solution, under app repository is where I have all of my applications. And over here is where I'm going to add my enterprise app as well. So I hit on Android enterprise app over here. I have the ability to choose the application. So if I choose this particular APK file, automatically the file would be uploaded. The details would be fetched, as in the app version, the bundle identifier, and I can provide a name for the application as well, the supported devices, and then a display image for that application when it's installed in your devices. So when I hit on save, automatically the app would be added to this service over here. And then I can filter out my application as well, which would be the Z Delivery app. And if there are going to be any updates for the application, I can also modify my app to the latest version. So I upload a new file, and we would automatically fetch the details of that file again. Be it 2.0, 3.0, 1.0, we would update the application. If you hit on save, then you would get a notification to distribute the update to your devices as well. So once an app is updated over here, it would be the same process again. You go back to groups and devices, you choose a particular group, hit on actions, distribute apps, the available apps, either if an update is available, it would be shown over here, or you can go to distributed apps and distribute the same application once again, which would update the app. So this is how we go about distributing your store-based applications or enterprise-based applications to your devices. So next comes a scenario wherein I would have to whitelist specific applications on my corporate devices alone. So this is where the kiosk mode would come into play. So kiosk is a prime feature that we provide, and most of our customers go for the kiosk mode, wherein we provision the devices to run either a single app or multiple applications. And we can also prevent the users from configuring the device settings if the device is locked down in kiosk mode. So let's take a scenario over here. So I am now running a logistics division, I would call it, under an organization, and I have two scenarios to meet with. One is a supervisor who assigns a trip using just one application, and the second part is where the drivers would have a particular device which has two applications in them. One is to get to know what and all trips have been assigned to them, and another one is just for their navigation purposes. So how do I go about doing that? So again, here under the Scene Device Management tab, we have the Profiles tab over here. So profiles are nothing but the configuration that you are going to distribute to your devices. So I create an Android profile. I would give it a meaningful name, and then I would hit on Continue. Automatically, all these configurations would list out. But I am focused on the kiosk mode in order to lock down my device as much as I can. So for the supervisor, he or she only requires one application in their devices. So I would lock down the entire device to run that single application alone under single app kiosk. So let it be the Z Delivery app. So I choose the Z Delivery application, and only that application would be available. I would not show them the custom settings app. I would restrict them from using the volume button, status bar expansion, etc. So any restrictions that you'd like to place on the single app kiosk device, you can place it. And I would also like to take this opportunity to configure for my, you could call it driver's device as well. So under multi-app kiosk mode is where I would go for my driver's device. So here I can add again the Z Delivery application for the trips, and the Maps, Zoho Maps or the Google Maps application for the navigation purposes. And then I can choose which launcher I would like to go for, whether the MDM application itself as the MDM launcher, which would have a lot of capabilities attached with it, or whether you'd like to go for the default device launcher itself, like the OnePlus launcher or the Samsung launcher that you have. But when you go for the MDM launcher, you can choose a wallpaper in the device. You can go through all these device restriction characteristics, and you can also go through these custom settings option as well. We have added a few custom settings option over here, like setting the volume limit, and also the Bluetooth options have been added. So this would be released in about a week or so, and once that is out, it would be more useful for you in order to connect to any Bluetooth solutions or other Bluetooth services that your drivers or anyone in this case might use when they are in the kiosk mode. So once I have configured this particular profile, I can hit on save and publish the profile as well. So now I have saved my configuration wherein it's a multi-app kiosk mode with two applications. I would go to groups and devices. I would take the same group again, or any group that I would like to go for, or the truckers group over here. I would associate the profile. I would filter it out by the OS type, and then I would select the name. So for example, it's this one. I choose select, and automatically any device under that particular group would get this profile associated. So let's see what happens on the device end. So for your supervisor's device, since it's locked down in a single app kiosk mode, only that one application would be present on their device screen. They cannot navigate to even the home page. But for your driver's device, it would be a little bit different, as they would have access to two applications. So if you'd like to have a wallpaper, as I mentioned, you can also post a wallpaper at the backdrop, and your two applications, your Z-Delivery app and the Google Maps app, would be available on the device screen. So now one day the supervisor comes up to me and says that they would like to know the locations that were traversed by the driver over a particular period of time, because they would like to keep track of the shipment details, whether the driver is correctly dropping those details or not. So in that case, I would have to recover the location data history of the device. And for that, I would have to move into the inventory tab over here. And before I go ahead collecting the data, I would have to make sure that I have set my geo-tracking settings. So I first have to set the tracking at always or at all times, so that the device is constantly being tracked by the MDM service. And I can apply the geo-tracking either for all the devices or only a selected group of devices under the MDM. And then most important thing would be to enable the location history. So location history would save a device traverse point. Like if it's moving from point A to point B, we would save that location under the MDM solution. So now if I go into location data, we would post the location details of all the devices that has been enrolled with an MDM solution. I go for location history over here, and we would start collecting the last known location details of a particular device. So if a device hasn't moved much, and if it's only moving within, say, your corporate premises, then you would find a map similar to this. But if the device is going to move outside of your network as well, we would still be able to track a small distance or a large distance that is traversed by the driver or by the device itself. Now I can export this particular report as a form of a CSV, and then I can upload it to any third-party solution that I might have. So that detail can then be transferred over to my supervisor, which would calm him down, I guess. So we have discussed as to how you can lock down a device and how you can track the device as well. But what if there are some issues with your corporate device? So the device is outside of the organization with the field agents like the truck drivers, and the field agents or the truck drivers would not be technically adept to what is provided in the device itself. And also we would have to take into consideration that the device is locked in kiosk mode, so they cannot do much on the device itself. So this is where we bring in our remote control feature. So that would be under the device management tab over here. So under the device management tab, remote control, you can take remote control of your Samsung-based devices, your Sony-based devices, and starting from this week, Monday, we are also supporting remote support or remote control for Lenovo-based devices as well. So for example, if I'm going to choose this particular device, the user is having some troubles with, it would automatically start a remote troubleshooting session with the user itself. And I would be able to take control of the device just by sitting in my office. So we would give it some time. So this would be the device screen. If I choose the MDM application would be opened in the device, and I can also pass some commands. So to exit from the kiosk mode, it would be. So if I choose this particular or send this particular message, I would immediately exit from the kiosk mode itself. I can then browse through the device itself, go through the logs, find what's the issue. And once this has been cleared, I can then again move the device back to the kiosk mode. So that would be /enter-kiosk, which would again bring the device back into kiosk mode. So within seconds, I would say, the device would be brought back into the kiosk mode. And this is how you can make sure that your end users do not meddle around with the device, and you are at the same time configuring all the details that are necessary. So once that is done, you would end the session, and that means the device has been completely fixed now. So for the next part, we have been drilling on the driver's device and how it should be locked down. Now it's time for the supervisor's device to stay within the organization premises. So you don't want them to take the device back to their homes and meddle around with that one single application that is present in the device. So how do you ensure that the supervisor's device is always within your company's premises? So for that, we have brought in a new feature called as geofencing. So geofencing is where you mark a geographical area, and within that area, the devices would be present and working as required. But if they move outside of that fence, they would be locked down. So for that, you would first have to create a fencing area. So you choose, your particular office premises, and then you would go for a particular location itself. So if I'm going to choose this particular location, I can then choose the fencing area around that location as well. So right in the middle of nowhere, I have an office, and I have created a fence around it as well. And once this fence is created, I would then have a fence policy associated to it. So for example, this is the fence policy that I've already created. I can also modify that. And if a particular device moves out of that fencing area, we can immediately notify the administrator saying that, hey, your device has moved outside of that fencing location, or we can move the device into loss mode after a day. So loss mode is a feature that I would be discussing down the line. So it's where we lock an entire device and not allow the user to have access to any details within the device itself. And there is also one other action that you can perform. So after a day, you can also execute a complete wipe of the device itself so that no data would be present in the device with regards to your company. So this is how you can keep your fencing area secure. So this is an introductory level feature. So we would also be bringing in a lot of enhancements under your geofencing feature. So I have covered a lot of ground over here, right from app management to kiosk mode to geofencing now. So if you have any questions, do raise it up on the chat. I have an expert panel waiting who would be answering your questions. So once this fencing policy is applied, you can then modify the policy and apply the fence policy to any group or device that you would like. So now for the next part, how can you protect data breaches and also ensure compliance are met with in the devices itself? So we will talk about data breaches first. Data breach can occur in many ways. Between devices, using AirDrop, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, you can share your documents here and there. You can upload the documents to any third-party solutions that would be installed in the devices. And within the device itself, you can push out documents from your corporate apps to your personal apps. So if there is a Word file that is shared in, through Office 365, someone immediately sends it through Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, that is a huge breach altogether. So in order to prevent that is where we bring in our containerization feature. So we would create two scenarios, a personal space and a corporate space. A personal space is where all of the personal applications would be present. A corporate space is where all of the enterprise applications or applications distributed by the MDM solution would be present. So for your Android devices, we would create a secure container, or you would call it an encrypted container in the device itself. So all the applications that are pushed out by the MDM solution would be installed in your work container. But for your iOS applications, there aren't any encrypted containers present because according to Apple, the devices are already encrypted and you would not be able to add an additional encryption layer on top of that. So in order to satisfy those details, we would bring in another option. But before that, if you don't block or if there is not any encryption between your personal and your corporate applications, and say, for example, I have set up an email service. So in that email service, a document comes forward. And when I click on that document, I'm able to use AirDrop. I'm able to use personal applications like iBooks or Dropbox to open or move that document, or I am able to use my corporate apps as well, which means there is some serious data breach happening over here. So in order to prevent that, you would have to go back to device management. We'd have to go through profiles, and we'd have to create a profile so that this does not happen. So I'd create an iOS profile, since this is only for your iOS devices. Again, we have the passcode policy. If you'd like, you can enforce a passcode policy to secure your device itself. But our focus would be more on restrictions. So here under restrictions, under device functionality, I can restrict screenshot and screen sharing. I can restrict AirDrop, iMessage, anything that is used to share the data. And under security is where I can prevent the sharing of data between my managed apps to unmanaged apps, basically applications which are distributed by the MDM solution and the applications that are installed by the user. And I can also do the same vice versa, which is sharing of data between your unmanaged to your managed applications. So this would pretty much prevent the user from moving the data around much. And you can also go for an additional restriction wherein you can also restrict the Bluetooth option so that they don't use the Bluetooth to distribute the documents over to, say, other devices or other iOS devices itself. So I can save this profile and publish it as well. And then I can distribute this profile to that particular group or to that particular amount of devices. So once that is done, and once after the policy is applied, the document that is obtained in the email service that is, again, done by the MDM solution or created by the MDM solution can only open in applications like Office or the MDM app, which are your official corporate applications. And the MDM app also can open your documents, which brings us to our next topic, which is content management. Content management is where we would help you to distribute your documents to the devices itself. And the benefits are you can seamlessly and in a secure fashion distribute your documents to your devices to multiple groups or devices at the same time. Your users can view and save the document only using the MDM application. And these documents cannot be accessed by any other third-party service. So any personal applications cannot have access to your documents at any point of time. So again, we are taking a scenario here. I am being thrown from the logistics division of the company over to the main administration itself. So again, I'm met with the sales team who needs access to a confidential document before an important client meeting. So what do I do in this situation? So again, I would go back to the same MDM solution that my company is using, and we would now be focused on the device management tab. So here under the device management tab, I have a particular option called as content management. And here under content management, I can add any document that I would like. So it can be a PDF file, it can be a PPT file, anything that I would like can be added in over here. And once it's added, I can add a description or a tag to it and also save the document as well. So once it has been saved, it would be shown in this list over here. So you can choose that particular document, hit on share. All the groups that you have created and the devices that you have enrolled individually would be listed out. You can either choose the group or the devices and distribute your application to the respective devices or group. And this is what happens on the device end itself. So the user would require the MDM application to be present in the device. They would open the MDM app, hit on documents. They would find the documents that are distributed to them, and then they can download the document and view it using the MDM application, which again brings us to the next scenario. So I have already distributed a document over to them, but they come back saying that they have made some changes to the same document, and they email me the second version of the document that has to be sent to the device once again. So in this case, I would have to go ahead and modify the application that they have passed on to me. or modify the document, I would say, to pass on to me. I'm sorry. So I would have to go to the Actions tab over here, hit on Modify, and remove the old document, choose File, upload the new document, and the new version would be uploaded over here. So if I click on Modify, this means that I am going to replace the old document with the new one in their devices. So if I hit on OK, automatically the new document would be distributed to the devices and they would have the latest version of the document itself. Now, we have discussed in detail about app management on how we can automatically update or install your applications, automatically take remote control of your devices, distribute documents, prevent data breaches, but we are missing a key part over here and something that has caused a lot of issues in the previous years as well, which is OS and OS updates. So automating OS updates is a key part when it comes to managing your mobile devices. So first we look at what are the disadvantages of running an outdated OS version. You will be missing out on some major security patches. Older versions of the OS tends to get slower in time, which means either you would have to replace the device in case it's from a particular company, or you would have to update it to a new version. And even if you're going to automate your OS updates at a particular time, there are some pitfalls as well here and there. First, there would be a huge loss in productivity because, say, for 1,000 devices, if you're going to automate the OS updates at, say, a Wednesday afternoon, that would be a huge hit on your productivity. You would not know if you have not tested your enterprise application. You would have no idea if the new OS update is going to be a boon or a bane for your enterprise application. And at the same time, you'd have bandwidth choking because OS updates do not come in MB size, they come in gigs. So it's 1.5 gigs or 1.4 gigs of data that is being transmitted from the device vendor servers over to your devices itself, which would cause some bandwidth choking. So for the solution to come around all of this is to schedule and automate your OS updates. So let's take a look at automate OS updates over here. And the most tricky OS updates of all times are going to be Android devices, because after the Google convention, Google might release the OS update immediately, but then Samsung, then OnePlus, so everyone takes their own time to release, say, the 9.0 or the 10.0 Android version to the devices itself. So we as a MDM solution and as an administrator, we have to be prepared for that. So in that case, when an OS update is available, you have two options. Either you can deploy it on your devices immediately, or you can delay it for quite some time, for up to a maximum of 90 days. And if you're going to deploy it immediately, you can also notify the users saying that, hey, there is an update for your device and we are going to update the device right now, which means you can also allow your users to skip the deployment, wherein we will force the deployment of the OS itself after the set number of days in this box over here. And you can also create a deployment schedule so that it takes place only on the 1st and the 4th of Sundays, I would call it, or Saturdays, on the weekends alone, so that it does not affect your productivity. So once you have a policy set in place, you can then save this policy. So once the policy is saved, you can go ahead, choose the policy, distribute the policy to any group or device that you would like. So any groups that you have created or any devices that you have enrolled, you can distribute the policy to them. So once it has been distributed, all these advantages would be covered. So which is, it's just a one-time setup. You have options for immediate, delayed, and windowed deployment. Your users would also get notified of the updates, and the users also have an option to skip the updates as well, thereby allowing them to work. So we have now spoken about how we can keep all of the applications and even the OS up to date, but what if the devices are misplaced or stolen, or they are just placed somewhere randomly out in the world? So that's when the loss mode would kick into place. Loss mode is a feature that we provide wherein we would lock down an entire device so that the user, the person who has taken the device, would not have access to any details within it. So I'm going to take the same driver as example. Since he or she has lost the device, I'm going to place their device in loss mode. So these are all the commands that can be passed on the device, right from scanning the device to complete wipe or corporate wipe. Corporate wipe is wherein we would wipe just the MDM details and the applications from the MDM. You can clear or reset the passcode if the user has forgotten it. And down at the bottom, you have enable loss mode. So when I click on enable loss mode, I can give a contact number that the user can call and a message as well. And if I hit on next and locate, automatically the device would be locked in loss mode. So once the device is locked in loss mode, the end user, the person who has taken the device, would not have access to any details within the device itself. And after that, you can trigger a remote alarm if you'd like. You can corporate wipe the device, completely wipe the device. And if you have got the device back in your hand, you can modify the loss mode in order to remove it or stop the loss mode itself. And if you hit on stop loss mode, automatically the loss mode would be stopped in your devices. And this would make sure that you have, or as the admin or as the end user, would have access to the details that are within the device itself. So now it's time for scenarios and solutions. So let's take a look at the first scenario. So is there a way by which I can remove apps previously available in the device? Please do note that these apps were not installed using the MDM solution. Yes, we can do that. And that would be under the inventory page over here. So we come down to inventory. We have the apps tab. So here under the apps tab is where you have the ability to view all the applications that are present in the device. You can choose a particular application and then blacklist the application for an entire device, for an entire group of devices, or all the devices globally in your solution itself. So this would uninstall the device, or sorry, uninstall the application from the devices. And you can also make sure to notify the users and then uninstall it immediately. So all these actions can be performed. Scenario 2, so my organization has provided full internet access and no restriction on any web sources to your employees. How can I restrict specific websites without affecting the usual internet activity? So this is a common scenario that most of our solutions or most of our customers would go for, wherein, for example, if I am giving out tens of thousands of devices with the Chrome application or the Safari application in it, I would like to prevent the users from accessing any websites that they like. So I'm going to create a profile over here. I would come down to web content filter over here. And I can whitelist or blacklist specific URLs. So if I'm going to whitelist a few URLs, only those URLs would be accessible by the end user in their devices. Scenario 3. As my workforce is extensively mobile only, we want to secure the devices with certificates. Can this be done using the Mobile Device Manager Plus product? Well, yes, you can distribute certificates using the MDM solution. And over here, we have two options, namely, which is certificate distribution, commonly done, say, for your Exchange Active Sync server or any application server that you might have, which requires a certificate, a common certificate, that can be added using the certificate option over here. Or if you're going for a more specific approach wherein you'd like to distribute user-based certificates to the devices. So each and every user gets their own certificate from your root server. So that would be through the SEAP configuration that we provide. So this helps you to push out user-based certificates to your devices. Scenario 4 is I want to ensure all the network communication taking place on a device is routed through a secure proxy. This can be done as well, and the name of that configuration would be Global HTTP Proxy. So this is a case wherein if you have a proxy server set up in your edge network, and if you have configured the proxy settings over here and distributed this profile, the device can be connected to mobile data, Wi-Fi, any solution that you'd like, but it would be routed through that specific proxy service alone. So it would not be any mode of communication would be done through that particular proxy server. So that's how you can keep tabs on the network communications as well. Then would be scenario 5, an employee has hard reset his or her device when they have left the organization. The device is handed over to a new employee, but it requires the previous user credentials. So can MDM help, anyone out in this solution, I would say. So this is a scenario which typically would be seen on, say, your Android devices, but this can be prevented as well, but it depends more upon the company policy. So if a company allows end users to add, say, their personal Gmail accounts or their personal iTunes or iCloud account in the devices, this issue might come up. So in order to prevent that is where we would create a container in the Android devices. Say for device management, I hit on continue in order to create a profile. Down here, I have something called as EFRP. So this makes sure that any device that I am distributing this profile to gets attached to a particular email address and an account ID that I have obtained from Google. So even if a particular user hard resets the device with their own personal Gmail account inside, I or any administrator can provide the email address and the account ID that they have created for their solution in the devices to remove the Google activation lock. So this is how we tackle that particular scenario. And next is the questions that were raised in the previous sessions. So one of the employees has forgotten his or her passcode in the device and is now unable to use the device. So this is a pretty simple one. You go back to inventory over here. You would choose that particular device. And once the device is up, all you'd have to do is just clear the passcode for them so that they don't use a passcode at any times, which would prevent you from such a scenario. Or if they're going to keep forgetting the passcode, you can reset the passcode for them and so that you could have one copy. And even in that case, if they forget it, you can help them out on that case. Next would be if you are a logistics company, as we had seen in the kiosk scenario, and you're going to provide Android devices to the to the truck drivers for tracking purposes, the user should not be able to disable the location services at any time. So that can be done by just a click of a button. So I go to device management, I go to profiles once again. So this time, let me just take a profile that has already been created for my driver. So I'm taking a profile that has been created in this session itself before, and I'm just going to modify it. So the same kiosk profile, everything is right over there. So I hit on continue. So I have the kiosk profile over here. I can add an additional layer of restriction on top of that, saying that the location services have to be always turned on. So I hit on save. I publish this, and the profile version would be updated. So now all I have to do is just go ahead and update the profile for my groups and devices, which would make sure that the location services would always be turned on in your devices. So that's how we can go for this particular option. Does MDM let me to share contact details and calendar details to an iOS device over the air? Well, that is possible as well, and that can be achieved using profiles. So iOS typically has their card dev and call dev details. So using those card dev and call dev details of any third-party service or calendar services that you might be using, you can mention those details out there, and then you can configure the profile as well. So I always do hate it when someone is messing around with the system. So yeah, over here we have your contact sync and your calendar sync, which would use your call tab and your card tab details in order to obtain the contacts and the calendars from the respective sources. If you're going for a more Exchange Active sync approach, by just configuring the Exchange Active email service, your contacts and your calendar services would be updated on the devices as well. So then for question 4, I want to ensure the IT approved apps installed in the device must never be removed by the users at any point of time. That again can be done for both your Android and your iOS devices. That is under restrictions, applications. You can prevent users from installing any app from the App Store, and you can also prevent them from deleting any applications that are distributed by the MDM service. So this prevents them from deleting or removing the applications. And for the last part, I want to ensure that my employees are connected only to the secure Wi-Fi networks of my company that are distributed via the MDM solution. This again can be achieved, but I would have to say that users would have to tread with caution over here, because the devices, once this restriction is applied, can only be connected to the Wi-Fi solution that has been added through the MDM solution using the Wi-Fi configuration over here. And then you can set a restriction. So under profiles for your Android and iOS, under restrictions, network and roaming, you can enable this option. Connect to Wi-Fi only if distributed via the MDM service. So we would post a huge banner, as you would have seen on top, saying that only it would connect to a Wi-Fi service only if a Wi-Fi is distributed through the MDM. So this would bring us to the end of the webinar. So do rate us on a scale from 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. You can also spread some word in social media regarding our free training so that it motivates us to do more. And our next training is scheduled for 9th May, same time. So that would be more focused on device enrollment and device provisioning. Thank you guys for your time.